Hey, good afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about the free maintenance and charge maintenance for a lubricated compressor. There's certain things we're going to check and certain ways we're going to check them. When you agree to do a free service for a doctor or a free service for a promotion, guys, try to do it at your convenience. We all know that you're trying to get business. You're going to have the oil drained out of the heads on this compressor so the doctor can't function while you're doing this. And please don't shortcut yourself on time. Allow yourself plenty of time to do it. All that being said, let's fly into the physical aspects of it, okay? These are Copeland heads, Copeland motors. We're all familiar with Copeland motors. We're all familiar with the lubricant and the oil that they take. Before we do any maintenance, we're going to make sure, A, the compressor's powered off, B, that we're totally depressurized. We don't want any surprises. So we'll pull the safety valve. We'll do two things at once here. We're relieving the pressure and we're checking the integrity of the safety valve. The safety valve is okay. Before we drain the oil, we're going to look at the condition of the existing oil through the side glasses in the compressor. This oil looks very clean, very translucent, and it looks at the proper level, halfway to 3/4 of the way up the side glass. Before you do this, check and make sure that you have enough oil in stock to refill the doctor's crankcase, to refill the doctor's compressor heads. You're probably going to use about 2 bottles of compressor oil, 2 of the pint bottles. Rick, could you reach inside that cabinet there? Okay, let's make sure that we have our oil, and to make things as expeditious as possible, let's already have our oil open and ready to dispense. Okay? Chances are, like I said, you're doing this during lunchtime and you're going to be cramped for time, so stay organized. A little bit of an oil leak is a natural byproduct of this, so be ready with paper towels or rags, okay? Be ready. Okay, we've already checked as previous to make sure our power's off and that our air is completely bled down. Now, we're going to take our oil plugs out. For convenience, in the DVD and the video format, we will do one head. You repeat the process for the other head identically. This is our drain plug. Can you guys see that? End of my finger? What I would recommend you use is a socket and ratchet instead of a wrench. This drain plug is very soft and it will round off easily. The best way to attack it is with a ratchet and socket straight on. So, first we take the fill cap off of the compressor head and we'll set it aside. This is going to allow us quicker drainage of oil by venting the crankcase. We'll be ready with our catch receptacle. And we're going to be ready. We've loosened with our ratchet. We're going to pull the rest off with our finger, okay? Now, gonna let the oil drain. This can take a few seconds, guys. The way you can monitor your oil draining is observe your sight glass for the oil level dropping, okay? To facilitate, the heads float on springs. You can wiggle and manipulate the head and tilt toward you as long as you don't break the plumbing loose or the electrical connections loose on the compressor. We're still draining, but we're registering pretty good on our sight glass. See how we're rocking to get all the oil out of the crankcase. Now guys, bear in mind this oil is not going to be black unless it has been contaminated by ambient debris in the intake air, okay? Okay, we're drained out. While we still have our oil receptacle under it, we're going to thread our plug back in, and we're not going to use Tef tape on this plug, guys. This plug is not meant to have Teflon tape on it or pipe dope. Guys, don't do like me sometimes. Always remember to put your plug back in before you put the oil back in. I have made this common mistake. Don't you make it. Okay, now, I found that if you wipe your oil and blot your oil as you go, you don't misdiagnose it as an oil leak at a later date or during the test cycle. Okay? So really the key is to stay extremely organized and have your stuff wound to a high degree before you attack it. Now, we're using liberal amounts of space here in the classroom in the compressor shop. In reality, you're not going to have this kind of space. It's going to be hot, dark, you're going to be confined. So be ready with your flashlight, just basic things you should carry to make your job go easier, okay? Now, after we've drained our oil, we're going to put new oil into the crankcase, okay? Through the oil fill. We're going to dispense the oil until we see it registering in the sight glass. How high should we register in the sight glass, guys?
Half to 3/4.
Very good, half to 3/4. And let me tell you, it's better to run them a little shy on oil. It's like an automobile. It's better to run them with a little less oil than too much, than to overfill, okay? And we're there. We're going to screw our oil fill cap back in. Nice and secure. There's no need to romp down on it. Just nice and secure. Okay. The second thing we're going to do is check our intake filters. For convenience and for practicality in this video, we have included two different types of air intake filters, one on each head. This is your basic foam element intake filter. Okay? You can pop this bad boy apart. Check the sponge, the element, give it a whiff, give it a shake, see if you got a little dust on it. This one looks good. Guys in the field, you will see them very impacted that you'll actually have to dig out. These replacement filters are available from RPI or DCI. Guys, I want to reiterate, every maintenance you do on these is an opportunity to sell a part or something. There's always something this guy would need on this compressor. Be it an intake filter, extra oil, a moisture monitor, any number of things. This is nothing but an opportunity. Okay? Now we've checked this style filter. Now let's move over to the right side of the head here and look at this intake filter. I'm sorry, I'll get out of the way. This is an intake filter that's available through RPI or DCI.
Is that a different intake filter than this one?
Yes, sir. It's a different style, but they both do the same things. They both do the same things. Sometimes practicality dictates using this one and space concerns. Sometimes practicality and space concerns dictate using this one. Okay? You can check this one for dirt by simply and look it on your hand, see if you have any dust or anything that's came out of the filter. See if you see any moths flying out of it or anything like that. Otherwise, we're fine. Okay? We'll screw the filter back in. Now, our other things are basic checks, guys. Before we fire the compressor back up, We're going to check and see if our moisture monitor is reading well. If the moisture monitor has been contaminated or is reading pink, an opportunity for you to sell the doctor a moisture monitor. The only thing that's included in the free service is the oil. Okay? That's the only thing included in the free service is the oil. So we have a marginal moisture monitor here, which would merit replacing. Doctor, your moisture monitor has been contaminated slightly. Now, let's look and see perhaps why the moisture monitor was contaminated. Okay? We're going to check again and make sure we get the pressure off, which we do. I'm going to move down to the coalescing filter. Okay? This is a bowl filter separator type of affair. To remove most of them, you push down on the latch. Can you get that, Paul? Push down on the latch and turn the bowl and drop the bowl. Okay? In the bottom of the filter, in the bottom of the bowl, you want to inspect for debris, general growiness, and condensation. We have condensation. That means that this is doing its job. Okay? That means it's doing its job. We'll set this aside for a moment, okay? Now, we're going to check the filter element. We'll screw it out. Guys, there's a 5-ounce element and a 10-ounce element. Okay? This one happens to be a 5-ounce. Now what you want to do when you inspect this filter is do just exactly what I'm doing. You want to squeeze it. Use your nails. See if you can tear the filter. See the oil and the water mixed in the filter? It's almost time to replace this filter. Almost. If this filter clogs, it impedes the airflow to the machine. It also washes moisture back and causes your sight glass to contaminate. Okay? So right off is another sale for you. Sell a filter element. You guys will probably start stocking these when you find out the predominant brand in your market. Okay? So we're going to screw the filter element back in. We're going to make a recommendation to the doctor to change the filter element. And we're actually going to show the doctor. Yeah, come on, John. Stand up for a second. You're the doctor.
All right.
Doctor, this is your filter. Every bit of oil, every bit of air, every bit of everything that goes into the patient's mouth is going through this filter.
Well, I don't want any of that in my patient's mouth.
Very good, then, sir, we'll replace it. Let me get an estimate together for you, the estimate cost of the price of the parts. The procedure only takes about 30 minutes at the most.
Will I interrupt my patient flow?
Yes, I'll have to shut you down for 10 to 15 minutes, sir.
All right. Can you schedule that for lunchtime or after I've seen patients?
I will be happy to have the call center call and schedule that, and I'll do my best to accommodate your schedule.
All right. Go ahead and replace it.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Now, we're going to screw the filter back in, which is easier said than done, by the way. There's a stud, there's a bolt or a stud that comes right down in the middle. The stud fits inside there and it screws on. You'll see an O-ring that seals to make the air go through the filter. And looky there, it only took me 3 times.
3 times the charm.
3 times to start it, okay? Now, we got goo-goo on our hands, so to keep from getting oil and slime all over the rest of the compressor, wipe your hands as you go, guys. I don't have to tell you that, we're all grown men, but a lot of people don't do it, believe me. And when they go up here to check, they've left smudges all over the compressor. A very important part of this maintenance is going to be wiping the compressor down. It doesn't take but a few minutes to wipe it down. It makes us look good, it makes us look professional. Okay? Now, we're going to reinstall the bowl by holding the latch down. pushing and turning clockwise until we snap. When you do that, give a tug ski to the bowl to make sure the bowl's not going to come off. Gently tug, because guys, if you don't lock it in there and it gets air pressure on it, it will pop off and you will have to go home and change, because it will scare you to death. And it's liable to mess up the threads and the locking mechanism. So always make sure that you're very secure in your seating, okay? Now, that's checking the coalescing filter. We know we're separating oil and water from the air. The next checks that we're going to have to make, guys, we're going to have to pressurize the compressor. So just always, I have trained myself as a safety rule, double check your sight glass and make sure you got oil in it, okay? I know you guys stood here and watched me, and I know I did it, but there's nothing like a little self-affirmation. Better to look twice than to regret once, okay? So we've confirmed that we've got our oil back in, and all systems are go. Right ahead and left head. Combo. We're going to get up the air pressure. We're going to check the purge solenoid is our next thing to check. Now, the purge solenoid isn't going to activate until at the end of the cycle. We've got to build up from 0 to 100 psi. So while we're doing that, guys, let's check our cooling fans, okay? Cooling fans are easy to check. Either they work or they don't. Look straight down at them. This one's not turning. This one is. Also, instead of looking, there's also another way. Look, okay. That one's turning in. That one ain't doing nothing. See? Another sale. Another sale. The cooler this compressor is kept, the longer service it will give you. It's all about keeping it cool. Okay? Now, as soon as we pressurize and purge, we'll be able to check the purge solenoid function. A preliminary way of checking is while you're building up on the outlet tube on the solenoid, put your thumb over it and see if you feel any air in this mouth. You shouldn't feel air at all during the buildup phase, only during the purge phase. Okay? So we're going to make a recommendation to the doctor to change the left-hand cooling fan as well. Guys, the suggestions are mounting up. This could be a return service call for you. This could be business. That's why we do these free offers. Get your foot in the door, and it also gives you an ample pathway to return business. While we're waiting to heat up, we're going to wipe. We've already checked our safety valve. Here comes our unloader check. And it is fine. Now, we're also going to check for air leaks around our bowl. Guys, anytime you interrupt a pipe or anything like that or take something off, always pressurize it back up. Use the patience and use the time to stand there and make sure that you're not going to leak. That you didn't tear up something trying to fix something, okay? Our purge indicates that we're okay. All systems look good. Now, one other thing we're going to do is we're going to check the petcock on the tank drain. Okay? Sometimes it'll take a pair of pliers. Your petcock is usually located on one end of the compressor, and it's located in the bottom tank of the compressor because the moisture and oil is heavier than air and it's going to sink to the bottom. So we're going to open the petcock until we hear. Stick your hand under the petcock, feel the airflow for moisture, or either you can physically look and see if you see a puddle building up under there. If you don't feel any moisture and you don't see a puddle, move on. You're done. Okay? So, in a basic brief review, we've checked our intake filters. We've checked our cooling fans. We have changed the oil. We have checked our coalescing filter and our separator. We've checked our solenoid, and we've checked our moisture monitor. On certain models of compressors, we're going to have a regenerator valve. All you can do in a preventive maintenance is make sure that the valve moves freely. Restore the valve back to its original position after you've ensured freedom of movement. Okay? Now, for all intensive purposes, we're done. We're going to open the tank up slowly and pressurize the operatories. Guys, whenever you open the tank back up, don't sock the air pressure to it supersonically. Easy, easy, easy. You don't want to shock the system. Very easy. Very delicately, because if you have a compromised connection, plumbing connection down line, it could go poof if you sock the air pressure to it at once. If you gradually introduce the air pressure to the apparatus, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to leak. Okay? Now, you guys will have a whole lot of oil built up after several of these free offers.
At the end. I have a question.
Okay. We'll have several. You have a bunch of oil built up. Take them to an AutoZone, take them to an O'Malley's, take them anywhere. Places like that are bound by law to accept bulk oil. Don't dump it out in the ground or don't dump it out anywhere. Take it to a station and let them collect it. Okay? Make sure you have plenty of oil in stock. Yes, sir, we have a question.
Hey, Harry, is it acceptable to do this service while the doctor is working by doing one head at a time?
Yes, it is, as long as you are very careful and don't get shocked and don't get burned. These heads get hot during use. So you can't isolate one head by turning the head off, okay? Now, true enough, when you do the safety valve check and pull the safety valve, the doctor's handpiece pressure is going to drop. Not significantly, but slightly enough to where he'll realize it, to where he'll recognize it. You can reassure him, doctor, I just had to let some pressure off of this compressor to do the test, sir. I'm glad we were able to do it to facilitate it while you were seeing patients. I'm glad we were able to do it without shutting you down, okay? But bear in mind, just because the switch is off doesn't mean that the switch is off to the other head, okay? So before you service it live, make sure you don't see any bare wires or any indications or anything weird like that. And be careful about resting your arms, because you'll end up burning your arms on them, guys. They get really hot, okay? Are there any more questions? So, in review, you're going to try to stock some filters, some oil, and maybe coalescing filters, okay? The inlet filters and the coalescing filters. All of these parts are available at parts@dentalfix.com, either through RPI or DCI or Chapman Hoffman, okay? This is a very good way to get business, a very good way to get your leg in the door, okay? Yes, sir.
The moisture indicator also, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
So there's 3 indications here. Cooling fan, boxer fan, moisture indicator, and your 10-ounce filter. Okay? Thank you very much. This concludes the lubricated compressor maintenance.